Hey guys, what's up? It's Greg Shazvasti with the Deepest Dream YouTube channel. For more movie and TV reviews and interviews, please subscribe to this channel. Thanks again so much for your support. Here is my review of Sound of Freedom. I know it's about a week and a half late, and yeah, some of you still haven't seen it, so maybe this review will reach out to some of you guys to actually see it in theaters, or maybe not after this review. Who knows? You might not. This movie might not be for you, or it might be worth a trip to the theaters. And I'll give you a couple of reasons why, on the pro side, Sound of Freedom is worth watching in theaters. First of all, it's a very value-added experience. The social issue of child sex trafficking, it will enlighten you to the plight of it. If you weren't already, it'll definitely give you a look inside the life of Tim Ballard. He's played by Jim Caviezel, and Tim Ballard is a former employee of the Department of Homeland Security who decides to leave after, even though he's doing a very important job at catching pedophiles, he wanted to actually shift that career and save as many children as possible. After watching Sound of Freedom, you can actually learn even more about Ballard's journey with Operation Underground Railroad. I'll leave the links down below in the show notes. What I really loved about Sound of Freedom is it mixes social drama, social commentary, social issues, which is child sex, human trafficking, along with this genre thriller. And thrillers, along with Westerns, are my favorite genres in cinema. So I'm very biased when it comes to thrillers. And I also, when a thriller doesn't work, I will really be frustrated. So whether it's a movie by Brian De Palma or Alfred Hitchcock, we're talking about top of the line, very cinematic thrillers with split screens, with twists, with just very beautiful visual dynamics. I love those movies. Sound of Freedom is not that. It's a slow burn thriller, which, however, with director Alejandro Monteverde behind the camera, it has some really interesting visual cinematic moments. Great thrillers are really good at pacing as well. So on the third act, when you actually see Tim Ballard and his right-hand man, played by Bill Camp, they journey up the river for one final mission, at least final mission within the movie. It's very tense. It may remind you of like a Joseph Conrad Heart of Darkness Apocalypse Now moment, and it's a little bit terrifying, and it's really shot well. Whatever your feelings are regarding all the reportings about Sound of Freedom, right now, last time I checked, it's made over $45 million at the box office. It's a sleeper hit this summer. I still haven't seen Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. This weekend I will be watching Mission Impossible, since I'm a huge Mission Impossible fan, and I'm obviously, even though he only directed the first movie, I'm a Brian De Palma loyalist. So every Mission Impossible after that, I've got to support in theaters because of my love for Brian De Palma. But anyways, I will see Mission Impossible. But to think that it's going up against such heavyweights like that, even a fellow, just not a complete heavyweight, but a very popular franchise with Insidious, and it's pretty much holding its own in the proverbial boxing ring with a $45 million take, lesser screens and whatnot. And also Angel Studios' pay it forward mechanism, where if you actually are kind of like me and don't even want to go out to theaters, you can actually donate some of your tickets and pay it forward and work towards a goal. So I think their initial goal, Angel Studios, for the prepay for the tickets was $2 million for 2 million, right? And now it's gone up over 224%. It's to 4 million tickets purchased for people who cannot see Sound of Freedom. So very interesting. The pay it forward situation, I think, is a very interesting dynamic in getting your film out there. And it'll be interesting to see what other movies down the pike Angel Studios has within that mechanism, and if they do as well as Sound of Freedom right out the gate when these respective projects are released in theaters. I think it's a great way to, I don't know if you're going to win against the battle of the kings and queens of the movie studios, like the Mission Impossibles or the MCUs or Disney Pixar animated films of the world, but I think if more movies like Sound of Freedom come out with distributors like Angel Studios, it could be a good sign for just a bigger variety of movie-going experiences. Whether you love Sound of Freedom or not, at least movies like this are out there and flourishing in theaters. Maybe not as many theaters as the big boys out there, but the fact that it can still be carried into theaters upon its second weekend, hopefully its third weekend, and hopefully will continue momentum, will be great. I really feel, though, however, it's great to support cinema, but also you're paying your hard-earned dollars. Is it worth watching for you? Well, that's going to be really up to you. If you like slow burn thrillers, number one, it's really well done. Alejandro Monteverde, he takes that issue of child sex trafficking and he does not shoot it in a very histrionic, exploitative manner. I didn't feel like it was completely overly manipulative and lowbrow filmmaking at all. It was very insightful and thoughtful. And yes, it might. Some people who are expecting more of an action-packed thriller may be disappointed. If you're a fan of Jim Caviezel's work, which I am, I've loved him since The Count of Monte Cristo. There is a bias for me. Back in the day when I was doing a ton of press junkets, I think I interviewed him for the Count of Monte Cristo press junket, and ever since then, I've really enjoyed his movies. You know, it's hard to sometimes take the bias out when you actually interview someone and you like them as a person. Maybe it might color your experience about the movies, but if you go on IMDb and look at Caviezel's movies, there's some really great ones. I'm a huge Terrence Malick fan, so of course I'm going to love Caviezel and Sean Penn's back and forth philosophy situation in The Thin Red Line. Really love all of his movies and The Passion of the Christ. Okay, so you can, however you feel about that Mel Gibson movie, I went to see it, love that as well. So anyways, if you are a Jim Caviezel person and you like his movies, obviously I don't have to tell you to go see it. You're going to probably go see it anyway. But as far as the cinematic experience, it's a very restrained performance from Caviezel as Tim Ballard, and he does a really good job. He has to anchor the narrative, and he has to make you actually believe Ballard's decision to actually leave a pretty stable job, in the sense that he's high up in the food chain and he's getting to launch his own missions regarding that. And he decides to leave Homeland Security for the uncertainty of Operation Underground Railroad. And he's just, look, I mean, just from an outsider's point of view, that's a pretty interesting mission. And I really want to read more about his story after Sound of Freedom. Now, what's interesting about Operation Underground Railroad, if you go on their Instagram page or their website, they will break down things that were actually accurate in the movie and elements that are not accurate, that are inaccurate in Sound of Freedom. Okay, and remember, the movie is based on the true story of Tim Ballard, but there are cinematic embellishments as well. So this is a movie. Okay, so Sound of Freedom is a movie. It could lead you to a jumping off point to get you more interested in what not just Angel Studios are doing as a, you know, just a distributor of films and projects, that's on the cinematic level, cinephile level, but on the human level, you can actually be interested in what Ballard is doing, and you can separate fact from fiction. And in Sound of Freedom, you get a little bit of both. So I think it doesn't have to be, this is not a documentary, it's cinema. It should be enjoyed. As far as, I have not seen this movie in the theaters. I'm sure I've only seen it in my television in my room. I love the visual compositions of Sound of Freedom. Really enjoyed the soundtrack. Nothing is completely operatic like a Brian De Palma film, okay, which is fine because that kind of tone is not necessary for this serious film. I really love the muted down tones in the movie, the insightful acting, especially Bill Camp as the partner of Ballard in these sting operations. I don't want to give too much away, but you learn a lot more about where Bill Camp's character is coming from. And it's a really intense monologue, and it's felt very lived in. Bill Camp played the mentor of the main character in The Queen's Gambit in Netflix. So you might know him as that custodian. He was very good in that. He's excellent in this movie as well. So Sound of Freedom is worth watching in the theaters. Just if you're looking for a really interesting visual experience, it's an insightful narrative, very good acting across the board, especially from Caviezel and Bill Camp, and really solid direction from Alejandro Monteverde. Also, if you, it'll be a way for you to support cinema. That is not the Mission Impossibles or the Indiana Joneses of the world. No disrespect to them, because I'm going to see Mission Impossible. Eventually, I'm going to see Dial of Destiny in theaters as well. But it's great for us as moviegoers to actually have a different type of movie out there in our local cineplexes. And whether we completely love Sound of Freedom or not, just the fact that that selection is out there for us to make our decisions, as opposed to, it'll be, just have a variety of selections on a given weekend. As whether you're an adult or a teenager, it's just great to have that out there. So yeah, I really enjoyed Sound of Freedom. My final rating for this is 4.5 out of 5. Most importantly, would love to hear what you think of Sound of Freedom. There is, right now on Rotten Tomatoes, it has a 100% score from the audience, and I think it has 76 or 77% from the critics. But I think for most importantly, for people like us who are moviegoers, would love to hear what you think. Did you not like it? Would love to hear just diverging opinions on Sound of Freedom. Did it not work for you? Leave it in the comments. Or if it did, check it out. Comment, and tell me what you think. Are you excited about Angel Studios? Will you read up on Operation Underground Railroad? And are you interested about Ballard's story, etc., etc.? Thanks again for supporting this channel and also checking out this review. I also do a couple of podcasts. Cinematics podcast is the weekly review I do with Bruce Perky and Eric Holmes. Cinematics, we've been up and running since 2015. And the other podcast is Find Your Film Podcast, which is pretty much a repository for all of the interviews that me, Eric, and Bruce do for our Cinematics podcast. So Find Your Film is a ton of interviews, and Cinematics is our weekly movie review podcast. Thanks again. A lot of that stuff will be housed here on Deepest Dream. Please subscribe to this Deepest Dream YouTube channel. And yeah, most importantly, let me know your thoughts on Sound of Freedom. Thanks, guys, and take care. Bye-bye.